Architecture CodeX. If you want to see more, like, comment, share, and most importantly, subscribe.
Bryant Park, just west and behind the New York Public Library main branch, is an oasis of green and tranquil space in the otherwise chaotic concrete canyons of New York City. The current configuration was designed in 1934 by Lusby Simpson in the Beaux Arts style and is reminiscent of Parisian urban parks like Place des Vosges. In recent decades, a private, not-for-profit put a lot of effort into cleaning up this city-owned park, providing public restrooms, food concessions, seating, quiet recreation, and private security. This surprised the politicians who didn't realize that making a place clean and safe would attract so many people. So it is not surprising that diagonally across the street, the development of a new office tower would value their location near the park, so much so that they deemed their address 1 Bryant Park. But that is not a real address. It is a vanity address, permissible by some obscure New York City law for a site that would otherwise be known as 1111 Avenue of the Americas, what New Yorkers actually call 6th Avenue. But because of the major tenant, the building, which opened in 2009, designed by Cookfox, is currently called the Bank of America Tower. Bank of America also has an annex space across the street, which has the unofficial address of 2 Bryant Park. So the fake address continues to expand. Like good bankers, they have employed all sorts of accounting devices in order to make their bland building more noteworthy. These tricks include the address, which we've just noted, the building height, the energy efficiency, a faux subway entrance and tunnel, and a site-specific historical preservation consideration. The vanity address at the northwest corner of 6th Avenue and 42nd Street is something like reporting your revenue prior to delivering your goods and services, or something like that. Hey, we can see Bryant Park from our building, so let's call it 1 Bryant Park. The building is officially 1,200 feet tall, but that's with a spire that looks more like an anemic antenna. The top occupied floor is over 400 feet below that. If you ignore the mechanical floors, in other words, 1/3 of the official height of the building has nothing to do with the building occupancy. But because of how accounting is done, this 55-story building qualified, at least at one point, as the 8th tallest building in Manhattan. The building is reportedly the first commercial skyscraper to achieve LEED Platinum status. I delve into the nature of LEED, Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, extensively in Architecture Codex video number 58 regarding the School of Architecture at Penn State. In summary, by addressing the building process and the energy performance of the final building, certain LEED status, certified green through platinum, can be achieved as a third-party assessment of the building's true environmental sensitivity. The system is overall very impactful, but it does get bogged down in its process, which requires so much accounting only a bookkeeper would love it, and certainly not architects or engineers. And because the building process is so complex, it fails in its attempts to truly show cost effectiveness. The accountants brag that they spent only 6.5% above standard construction costs to get LEED certification. That's very good. Most other buildings I've seen, the estimates are over 15% additional costs in order to achieve LEED status. But at $1 billion, that's still $65 million of incremental increase. But let's assume magnitude of scale worked for them. They also project that they will save about $3 million a year in energy savings, and that's good too. If you amortize then that $65 million investment across the years At prime plus 1.5% and, well, forget it. At straight math, it would take them about 21 years to recoup their investment. But in 2019, New York City passed a law that rated the building as producing too much carbon dioxide. Apparently, everyone in the building is still exhaling. And therefore, they've levied against them every year $2.4 million in fines. Goodbye, energy savings. The lead accountants would also like to point out that the building will save $7 million a year in productivity. The theory is that LEED buildings are so healthy, the workers will not be out sick as much, and they'll be so much more productive when they are in the office. But I have yet to see any hard evidence that supports that claim. But it would seem to me that spending $65 million in order to have happy and healthy workers can be completely undone by one cranky $75,000 a year mid-level bank manager or any layoffs due to an economic downturn. But the figure looks good on paper, so why question it? As part of the site construction, the developer, the Durst organization, promised to build a new subway entrance and tunnel connecting the station to the Times Square station. The subway entrance was constructed but remained closed for many years. As for the tunnel, apparently there was some confusion during a Times Square shuttle renovation that made it next to impossible and only recently opened. Among the buildings on the block where the tower was built, on 43rd Street was the old Henry Miller Theater, built in 1918 and designed by architects Allen, Ingalls, and Hoffman. The neoclassical facade was declared a landmark in 1987 after the theater had been through many iterations, including as a porn theater, a discotheque, and a nightclub. In 1998, it housed the revival production of Cabaret and then the musical Urinetown. Because of the landmark preservation laws, the developer could not demolish the facade, but everything behind it was, and a new theater built behind and below. The name Henry Miller Theater was not protected. By the way, this is not the Tropic of Cancer author Henry Miller. So when the new theater opened in 2010, it was renamed the Stephen Sondheim Theater. So technically, while the theater was preserved, it really wasn't. But actually, the facade was really the only historically, architecturally significant part of the theater anyway. So I'm okay with this kind of preservation. Not that anyone in New York City or on the development team asked me. Otherwise, the building is a standard glass curtain-walled New York City skyscraper that emerges from its street grid defined by its rectilinear base and rises with triangular segments cut back, adding some visual interest, but more than likely responding to the setback laws. Richard Cook of Cookfox is quoted as saying the curtain wall is a way to express the ideal of modern banking, open, clear, and transparent. Okay, but accountants being cheap, it might also be a way to express that glass curtain wall is the least expensive way to sheathe your skyscraper. Some say it was inspired by the 1858 New York Crystal Palace, which sat in Bryant Park and was designed by Carstensen and Gildemeister. But I don't see it. That's like saying that the housing projects in northern Manhattan were inspired by the ancient Roman aqueducts because both of them used bricks. Still, this probably made a very nice slide in somebody's PowerPoint presentation. The base of the building transitions to other types of facade articulation, but I don't know if it ever really addresses its longing to be part of or like Bryant Park. Across the street east of the building to Bryant Park gives up more outdoor sitting space, which is nicely landscaped, but that is not connected either to One Bryant Park or to Bryant Park itself, although it might have been part of the height and setback calculation affecting One Bryant Park. It's okay, we do not need this building to be fabulous. Bryant Park is so well designed that the visual focus is inward into the park itself, and the glass boxes around the park are merely a background for the canopy of trees. But this architect, spending some time in the park with his sketchbook, is more intrigued by the Art Deco Tower, a Gothic motif skyscraper on the south side of Bryant Park. The American Radiator building, built in 1924 by Raymond Hood, who also designed the Tribune Tower in Chicago, Architecture Codex video number 30. It is currently the Bryant Park Hotel. It stands out even among the revivalist skyscrapers of its age because the black stone and brick is illuminated by gold detailing. It is decoration, the antithesis of modern minimalism. It is expensively unnecessary, the antithesis of modern corporate money policy. That building is so resplendent with details that it was obvious that the bean counters were not the final word on what makes successful architecture. I'm Michael Molinelli, and this is Architecture Codex.